What's up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. These are my full card breakdown and predictions for UFC Vegas 25. We have Dominic Reyes going against Jiri Prochazka in a fight that I'm really looking forward to. This fight should be absolute fireworks. Remind you that we are back in the Apex. We're back in the smaller cage. These two guys in the small cage, it should make for a very exciting fight. Can't wait to break it down for you guys. Before we get into it, if you guys can hit the like button, also subscribe if you're not subscribed already, so do not miss out my content throughout the week. Going to be going live this week on Tuesday, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, due to the fact that I'm going to be in Vegas from Wednesday night to like Sunday morning, Sunday night, something around there. So I'm going to be getting out all my content extra early this week. So yeah, with all that said, let's get into the card, and we're going to start with the first fight of the night. We have Luke Sanders going against Felipe Colares. We have Luke Sanders, who is 35 years old, 5'6", 71-inch reach, 13-4, 2-3 in his last 5 fights. We have Felipe Colares, who is 27 years old, going to be 8 years younger, 5'8", 69.5-inch reach, 9-2 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. And we'll take a look at the odds here. So these odds just recently came out. Luke Sanders opened up at minus 205. He's currently minus 155. And Colares opened up plus 165, currently plus 135. And the thing with Luke Sanders is you really can't trust the guy. He's somebody that is going to be looking phenomenal up until he makes a mistake, until he gets caught, until he gets subbed. And he has been submitted in 3 of his 4 losses. We saw him look really good against Nate Maness in his last fight, outlanded him by a ton in that first round. And then it comes to the second round, Nate Maness catches him, ends up subbing him for his 3rd submission loss in his career. And it's just, you see that throughout his career. He makes these mistakes, submitted by Ronnie Yaya, knocked out by Andrei Sukumtop. You can't trust the guy. You can't trust the guy, especially as a favorite. But then on the other hand, we have Felipe Colares, who maybe not the best fighter in the world, but, you know, there's some things I like about this guy. The guy's a black belt in BJJ. His toughness, his cardio is next level. This guy can take an absolute beating, and that's exactly what he did against Montel Jackson. Jackson outlanded him 75-7, took him down 11 times, but he kept fighting. He ended up, losing by decision, but it definitely showed a ton of toughness. I think in this fight, I think that, Sanders is going to have the advantage in the striking. I think Sanders, honestly, is probably the more skilled fighter by a decent margin. It's just he's 35 years old. He is getting up there, especially for the 135-pound division. I think if Colares comes out here with the game plan of trying to wrestle, or 145-pound division, my bad. If he comes out here with the game plan of trying to wrestle, I think he can have a lot of success. And we see in his UFC run, Colares, he took down Geraldo de Freitas 3 times. He took down Domingo Pilarte 2 times. And he even took down Montel Jackson once as well. So if he is able to take down Luke Sanders, somebody that has been submitted 3 times, somebody that has shown, really questionable fight IQ on the mat, I think that Colares is actually live for a sub in this fight, or even just, taking Sanders into deep waters. I'm not sure about the fight IQ of Sanders. I mean, this is a guy that you really never, ever want to have your money on, and I think he is going to be looking good to start this fight, but there is going to be one point where I do think Colares does get this down to the mat, does survive the early storm that Sanders is going to bring, and I think Colares is going to get a 3rd round submission, might even be a decision as well. But I like Colares just based off the fact that he has the toughness. He's a black belt. He's young, and I took a look at the Instagram. This guy's coming in phenomenal shape, and I really don't know where Luke Sanders' head is at. I mean, hasn't had the best run at all in the UFC. Just got knocked out or submitted by Nate Maness. It's just not a great look. I'm going to take the younger guy, Felipe Colares, here to win by submission. All right, interesting fight here. We have KB Bueller going against Andres Michailidis. We have Michailidis is 32 years old, 6 foot, 75-inch reach, 12-4, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. KB Bueller, 29 years old, 6'4", 78-inch reach, 8-1, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. So we'll take a look at the odds here. We have Michailidis opened up minus 275, currently minus 250. KB Bueller opened up plus 215, currently plus 210. Yeah, very good fight here. Really looking forward to it. KB Bueller came in there in his UFC debut. There's a lot of unknowns with this guy, and it kind of reminds me of like the Jacob Malkoons, the Jarvis Danos, where we really don't know a lot about these guys, and they kind of have that unknown factor to them. He went in there against Breeze. He looked pretty terrible. He got outlanded 17-2. He had absolutely no striking defense. His hands were low, and Tom Breeze knocked him out with a jab. So very bad look there. And it's really hard to get tape on this guy. I was able to see maybe 3 fights of him. Very low-level stuff from what I've seen, but I'm sure there's a lot of tape out there that I was not able to see, and I really don't know what this guy is fully capable of. But like I said, the unknown aspect of this fight coming in. And then you got Andreas Michailidis, who had a interesting UFC debut himself when he was looking really good in that first round against Modestas Bukauskas. I believe he came in on short notice as well. He outlanded Bukauskas 23-18, hit him with some really hard shots as well. And then at the end of the first round, he shoots for a takedown. Michailidis, or Bukauskas, elbows Michailidis in the head like 5 or 6 times. At the end of the round, he's like grabbing his head, and then all of a sudden the cage door opens and he falls out. He leans back, he falls out. The ref says it's over, which was one of the weirder stoppages you'll ever see. But he was looking really good in that fight. As far as a pick goes, I kind of got to go with Michailidis here just because I've seen a lot more. I think he's a very exciting fighter, decently skilled fighter as well. And I also really like that he's dangerous. He's a finisher. He has finished 91% of his wins. He's only been in decision 1 time. His 4 losses, all by knockout. So instead of betting a side here, especially at the like minus 250, minus 260 of Michailidis, I think the under 2.5 rounds could be a very good look because you got Bueller, he's a decent finisher himself, 75% finish rate, and we have seen Michailidis knocked out in all of his losses. So I think the under is probably the way to go in this fight. I do expect some violence, especially in the small cage, but ultimately I'm going to go with Michailidis to starch KB Bueller in round 1. You do not want to be hittable against someone as dangerous as Michailidis, and I think Bueller definitely has that tall man's defense. So I'm going to go with Andreas Michailidis by first round knockout. Should be a very fun fight for as long as it lasts. All right, next we have Sam Hughes going against Luma Lookboonmee. We have Luma, who is 25 years old, 5'1", 62-inch reach, 5-2 and 3-2 in her last 5 fights. We have Sam Hughes, who is 28 years old, 5'5", 64.5-inch reach, 5-2. And 3-2 in her last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here. Luma is the biggest favorite on the card, opened at minus 280, currently minus 370. Sam Hughes opened up plus 220 and currently plus 310. Yeah, so interesting with Sam Hughes. She came into the UFC, made her UFC debut against Tecia Torres, and man, did she look pretty terrible. I mean, she absorbed 52 significant strikes in 1 round from Torres. Torres was absolutely having her way with her. And then she quit. I mean, it was weird. She had a cut near her eye, not on her eye, but it was like by the nose. And she was talking about she can't see, and the fight got stopped shortly after. Very weird stoppage there, but, she was not winning that fight. Torres was teeing off on her, and that's definitely what I see in the tape with Hughes is she's aggressive, she comes forward, but, she's very, very hittable. She has no striking defense. She rushes forward pretty much every fight. She wants to get in the clinch, and what you shouldn't do is get into the clinch with somebody like Luma, who she's really nasty in the clinch. She has amazing elbows, nasty knees, and she was really, piecing apart Jinh Frey, especially in that Thai clinch. It's very dangerous there. I was shocked that Frey was able to survive some of the shots she was taking. Those elbows were nasty. And, Sam Hughes is going to invite the clinch. And like I said, you really don't want to do that against Luma. At range, I favor Luma quite a bit as well. But where Luma is most dangerous is going to be in that Thai clinch, and I do think she gets there. I guess the only concern about Luma is the fact that she is undersized for the division. She's going to be at a height and reach advantage, as she probably will be in every single fight that she's in. But still, she's a really good fighter. I think between the two, there's just levels above. Luma's levels above Hughes in the striking by a decent margin. For Hughes to win, she probably needs to get this fight down to the mat. Luma has been taken down in all 3 of her UFC fights, but she's never been taken down more than once. Her get-up game is really good. It looks like her ground game, her takedown defense, her get-up game, all that's improving. She's at a very good camp as well. So yeah, I really like Luma here. I think the price tag is probably warranted. And I think she actually has a chance to finish Sam Hughes, just with the fact of how hittable Sam Hughes is and how dangerous Luma is in that Thai clinch. But I'll go with decision for Luma. I think she's going to win a pretty clear decision here. Maybe Hughes gets her down in a round, but still I think the more damaging shots is going to come from Luma here. So give me Luma Lookboonmee to win by decision. All right, now we have a Kai Kamaka going against TJ Brown. We have Kai Kamaka, who's 26 years old, 5'7", 69-inch reach, 8-3 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. TJ Brown, 30 years old, 5'9", going to have a 2-inch height advantage, 73.5-inch reach, going to have about a if my math is right, 4.5-inch reach advantage. He's 14-8 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here. Kai Kamaka opened up -185, currently -155. TJ Brown opened up +155, currently +135. So some money is coming in on the TJ Brown side. And yeah, I think this line should definitely be closer. And we kind of see it with all Kai Kamaka fights. This guy is overvalued in like every fight. He came into the UFC against Tony Kelly. He closed nearly a -300 favorite for some reason. That fight played out pretty close. I mean, he had a ton of success early on, but after that 1.5 round mark, Tony Kelly really started to take over. Kai Kamaka started to slow down, and that's what you see in a lot of Kai Kamaka fights. He does slow down as the fight goes on, which is not a great sign. And Tony Kelly ended the fight with 114 significant strikes. Kai Kamaka ended the fight with 114 significant strikes, and it was a pretty close fight for the most part. Kai Kamaka did win that second round based off of the takedowns and all that, but that third round was very, very sketchy. I thought Kelly was about to finish Kai Kamaka, but overall good win for him there. And then his next fight against Jonathan Pearce, I mean, the guy just straight up got exposed. Jonathan Pearce took him down 5 times. He looked really, really green off his back. He didn't really know what to do, and Pearce was able to implement that wrestling heavy game plan, get him tired, and then eventually get him out there in that second round. We saw Kai Kamaka slow down a ton after a very good first round, and that seems to be the theme with Kai Kamaka. Then you have TJ Brown, who got a nice submission win on the Contender Series, landed 5 takedowns, came in against Jordan Griffin, dominated Jordan Griffin in that first round and a half, 7 takedowns, put him in a lot of bad spots as well, and then he gets caught by Jordan Griffin, which, no shame in that, really. I mean, Griffin's a great grappler. Kind of the way he got submitted was not a great look. I think it was like a guillotine while he was in side control, if I remember correctly, but that was not a great look, but still, he's a great grappler, great wrestling. I believe he has a wrestling background. I believe he's a brown belt in BJJ as well, finishing the majority of his fights by submission, and I just really don't get this line. I feel like this can play out somewhat close if TJ Brown comes in here with the right game plan of going and getting takedowns on Kai Kamaka. We saw that Kamaka can be taken down. We saw that he does not have much off his back. And Brown, I do think, is the much better grappler. I honestly think he's probably the better wrestler. Kai Kamaka has some good wrestling himself, but he maybe doesn't want to take down Brown, who's a great grappler. So, on the feed, it's Kai Kamaka all day, and I think there's a lot of recency bias built into this line because you take a look at the Chavez fight. We got to remember that, TJ Brown did come in on short notice, and we also got to remember that Chavez is a black belt, so maybe he came in there with the game plan of just striking with Chavez for some reason. Obviously, it didn't work out. Obviously, you would have wanted him to wrestle, but I think in this fight, he's got to wrestle. And also, he moved to Glory MMA and Fitness with James Krause for this camp, and I love that fit. I heard an interview saying that they hand-picked out Kai Kamaka because they think that's a really good matchup for him. They think they can get a win. And he also said that he's typically, throughout his career, taken fights on short notice. And he said that he needs to start doing more, full training camps to be more prepared at this level, and I totally agree. So I do think he's going to come in here ready. Took a look at his Instagram. He's in phenomenal shape, training with James Krause. I do think Krause will come in here with a game plan of getting this fight down to the mat early and often. And if he does that, he can wear out Kai Kamaka. Kai Kamaka is very dangerous in that first round. But with that said, Kai Kamaka has no knockouts on his record. He kind of feels like Impa Kasaganay, where Impa looks like he hits very, very hard, as does Kai Kamaka, but the finishing ability is just not there. In 11 fights, Kai Kamaka has 0 knockout wins. So is he going to get his first knockout win against TJ Brown? Maybe. It's just he hasn't shown that yet. Kai Kamaka only 1 finish in 11 fights, and that was by submission. I really don't see him submitting TJ Brown. So overall, I think this fight should be lined closer to a pick'em. Honestly, Brown probably should be a slight favorite just with the wrestling upside, the cardio upside, coming in on a full camp. I do think he's ready, and Kai Kamaka does slow down as the fight goes on. So I'm going to take a shot on the dog here. I'm going to take TJ Brown to win by decision. I think the first round will be close, especially if Kai Kamaka can stuff those takedowns. But as he does stuff some of those takedowns, as he does get taken down, it's going to wear on him a ton. And I think Brown's going to come in here with a better gas tank, a great game plan. I think he's going to win a decision here. But yeah, it should be a really fun fight. So give me TJ Brown by decision. Wouldn't be shocked if there's a submission as well. Another really fun fight, we have Gabriel Benitez going against Jonathan Pearce. We have Benitez, who is 32 years old, 5'8", 71-inch reach, 22-8, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Jonathan Pearce, 28 years old, 6 foot, 71.5-inch reach, 10-4, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. So Pearce is going to have about a half an inch of reach, and he's going to have about 4 inches of height on Benitez as well. So Very, very interesting fight here. We'll take a look at the odds. Benitez opened up minus 250, currently minus 210. Pearce opened up plus 190, currently plus 175. So yeah, interesting matchup. I do want to get into the stats just a little bit here. Pearce within 3 fights, I mean, this guy's pace is just crazy, averaging 8.8 significant strikes per minute. But with that said, he's absorbing a lot as well, absorbing 6.65 with only a 46% striking defense, which is pretty bad. But his grappling stats is what I really like. He averages about 6 takedowns per 15 minutes, 60% accuracy going against Benitez, who does have a really poor 56% takedown defense. And it's an interesting fight. I think this is another instance where the line is really off here. I don't see why Benitez is this big of a favorite, especially if Pearce can come in here with the right game plan of being able to take down Benitez and maybe not hold him down. Benitez's get-up game is really good, but I do think he can take down Benitez, really wear on him. And Pearce has some really, really, really good cardio as well. And another big thing in this fight is Benitez is coming down from 155 to 145 here, so I don't know how that's going to affect his gas tank. And I think Pearce can just wear on him, survive that first round, because that first round is going to be very dangerous. I would not be shocked in the slightest if Benitez did get that first round knockout because of how hittable Pearce is. But if he can survive that first round, mix in the takedowns, take this to deep waters, I think that Pearce is going to have the better cardio down the stretch, mixing in those takedowns. I think, honestly, like Benitez's KO or bust here. It's hard to see Benitez winning a decision based off the fact that Pearce is going to be throwing a ton more. Pearce is going to be mixing in the takedowns. Could Benitez knock him out? Sure, but should it be minus 210? I don't really think so. So I'm going to take Jonathan Pearce to win. I'm going to say second round finish for Jonathan Pearce. I think he's going to survive the early storm of Benitez, but it's another instance where I really do like the under 2.5 rounds. But Pearce has a dog. I don't really hate it. So I will take Jonathan Pearce, and I'm going to take him to win by second round. Ground and pound. I think it's going to be a really good fight. One of the better fights on the card. All right, now we have Luana Pinero going against Random Marcos. We have Pinero, who is 27 years old, 5'4", 62-inch reach, 8-1, and 5-0 in her last 5 fights. Random Marcos, she is 35 years old, 5'4", 63.5-inch reach. She is 10-1, and 1-4 in her last 5 fights. So, yeah, probably one of the worst records you'll ever see there, 10-1. That's pretty terrible going against Pinero, who, coming from the Contender Series, it's not a great look. You see it time and time again where these Contender Series fighters, they come in, they're overpriced, and they don't pay off that price tag. And then, they've been losing a lot as of late, like these Contender Series fighters. So I'd kind of beware in that aspect, but she did open up minus 185. She's currently minus 170. Random Marcos opened up plus 160, currently plus 150. So a little bit of money's coming in on Marcos. I don't know. I personally wouldn't bet Random Marcos, but I definitely get the angle of fading these Contender Series fighters. And at first, I kind of thought, hey, I might take a shot on Random Marcos. But after getting to the tape, I actually really like what I see from Luana Pinero. I think her striking's decent. I think she has a lot of power. She's decent output. Marcos, very low output herself, only landing 2.85 significant strikes per minute. And what I really like about Pinero is how aggressive she is, how strong she is. I do think she can get this fight down to the mat. She's a BJJ brown belt as well. Marcos does have a really poor 57% takedown defense. So I think Pinero can kind of implement the game plan of what happened in the last Marcos fight with, I forget her name. I think it was like Kamaka or something like that. It was Murata. Kanako Murata was able to take down Marcos 4 times, hold her down. I think Pinero can kind of implement that same game plan, maybe submit Marcos, but ultimately I really do like Pinero to win this fight. Just Contender Series, betting those big favorites from the Contender Series, they just doesn't seem to work out, especially women's MMA. I just don't want nothing to do with it, but I will pick Pinero to win by decision. How does Marcos win the fight? I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe outlanding her on the feet. I don't know if she's going to out-grapple Pinero. So, I don't know. So, give me Pinero to win by decision. Just not something I bet on personally, but I do think she wins. All right, another fight that you probably should not bet on. You have Pauliana Botelho going against Luana Carolina. We have Botelho, who is 32 years old, 5'8", 67-inch reach, 8-3, and 2-3 in her last 5 fights. Luana Carolina, she is 27 years old, 5'6", 69-inch reach, 6-2, and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. So we'll take a look at the odds here. Yeah, Botelho opened up minus 185, currently minus 225. Carolina opened up plus 155, currently plus 185. So a lot of money's coming in on the Botelho side, and I agree with it. If I was to bet this fight, I probably would have bet it closer to the opener, but now that it's minus 225, I really do want to stay away. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Carolina. I mean, she got submitted in her last fight. No shame there, I guess. But when you take a look at her striking at range, she's like not that great. Her striking's not there. She has like a tall women's defense. Her chin's way up in the air. She can be hit. She's really good in the clinch. So I think Botelho does have to beware of that. I took a look at Botelho's Instagram, and she had said like a wrestling champion, and it doesn't really show that in the UFC, but she does average about a takedown per 15 minutes. But you do dig into those fights, and she's not going to take down Calvillo. She's not going to take down Robertson. So I think in this fight, she could go for takedown. She's very good on top, very heavy on top as well. I think she can, smother Carolina on top and maybe win a decision here on the feet. Like I said, Carolina's very hittable at range. She's not that great. I think Botelho's better pretty much everywhere outside. If it does get in the clinch, that's where I do have some concerns. Carolina is very good there, but she is very green. I'm going to take Botelho to win by decision, mixing in the takedowns. Could she get a finish? I mean, maybe. Botelho, actually really good finisher, 75% finish rate, 75% coming from knockout as well. But I'll take Botelho to win. Just not something I bet on. Like I said, if I was able to access that opener of like minus 185, maybe. But now that it's minus 225, there's really no interest for me in this fight from a betting perspective. But I will take Botelho to win. All right, yeah, this is probably, I want to say it's my main event, but I also really like the main event in general. But I really like this fight. Rob Dvalishvili going against Cody Stamann. You have Dvalishvili is 30 years old, 5'6", 68-inch reach, 12-4, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Cody Stamann, 31 years old, 5'6", 64.5-inch reach. He's going to be at a 3.5-inch reach disadvantage. 19-3-1 and 2-2-1 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the line here, and we have Dvalishvili opened up minus 245, currently minus 240. Cody Stamann opened up plus 185. He's currently plus 200. So, yeah, I mean, interesting fight. I'm a big fan of Merab. I'm a big fan of the style. I really like the guy. In this matchup, I honestly do think Cody Stamann is very underrated, but just stylistically, I think he's going to give Cody Stamann a lot of problems here. Merab, he's obviously very good at getting takedowns, very good wrestler, averages 7.71 takedowns per 15 minutes, which is absolutely insane, and that's with a decent sample size as well. 43% takedown accuracy, and you see it in a lot of his fights. The striking is not all that there. I actually do think that Cody Stamann's the better striker in this fight. I just don't really think it will matter, honestly, with the pace, the pressure, Merab coming forward. And we saw it in his last fight against John Dodson, where Merab got 18 takedowns stuffed from John Dodson. I could not believe the takedown defense on John Dodson. And he was still able to win that fight. He was still able to win that fight just by doing stuff, just by throwing strikes, just by holding John Dodson up against the cage. And I think that's exactly what he does here. I think he will, at times, probably struggle to take Stamann down, but I don't think it matters. I think he can hold Stamann against the cage, just throw more strikes, throw more volume, and I actually do think he'll get Stamann down a couple times. I don't think he's going to get Stamann down like 13 times like he did in the Gustavo Lopez fight. I don't think he's going to get him down 12 times like he did in the Kenny fight, but I do think he'll get him down 3, 4, 5 times. One thing I don't like about Merab is his inability to control fighters on the mat. The reason he's getting so many takedowns is he can't really hold these guys down. I really don't expect him to hold a guy like Stamann down as well. Stamann's get-up game is very good. Overall, I think this fight maybe can play out closer than the line indicates, but I do like Merab here just based off the fact that he's going to go for takedowns. If he doesn't get it, he's going to try again. If he doesn't get it, he's going to try again. He's going to hold Stamann up against the cage. He's going to drain him. I do think that Dvalishvili does have the better cardio as well. If it does get extended, which I think it's going to get extended, I do think he can have more and more success as the fight goes on. And I'm going to take Merab to win by decision. As far as a betting perspective, maybe Merab's a decent parlay piece. Maybe take a look at Merab by decision. I think fight goes to decision is not a bad parlay piece. I'm not really one to parlay props, but both these guys are not finishers at all. You have Dvalishvili with only a 25% finish rate. No finishes in the UFC. You have Cody Stamann with a 44% finish rate. I don't believe any finishes in the UFC. So I do expect this to go to decision, and I do expect Dvalishvili to win pretty comfortably. I think there will be some times where he does struggle a little bit to take Stamann down. Maybe Stamann has some success on the feet, but I do think the pace and the pressure of Merab will win him this fight. So give me Merab by decision. All right, very fun fight here. We have Sean Strickland going against Krzysztof Jotko, and yeah, fun fight. We have Sean Strickland, who is 30 years old, 6'1", has a 76-inch reach, 22-3 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Jotko is 31 years old, 6'1", 77-inch reach, going to have a 1-inch reach advantage, 22-4 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here, and we have Sean Strickland opened up minus 265, currently minus 250. Jotko opened up plus 205, currently plus 210. So the line kind of staying right around where it did open. And yeah, so Sean Strickland, coming off of that motorcycle accident, has looked phenomenal. I mean, I guess it was against Jack Marshman, but still, he outlanded Jack Marshman 106-48. I am shocked that he did not knock out Jack Marshman with the amount of times that he hit him in the face. And then he got a really good win over Brendan Allen, where he outlanded Allen 94-51. And, you know, those are pretty big numbers in terms of striking, and he's a high-volume striker, and that's what I really like about this guy, especially in this matchup against Jotko, who only averages 2.98 significant strikes per minute. Strickland averages 5.09, so almost double the output, and I think that's huge in a fight where it could play out somewhat close to time. I just think that Strickland has amazing boxing. His hands are fantastic. The volume is a big edge as well. I guess the one thing I was concerned about coming in was Krzysztof Jotko typically likes taking guys down, making the fight boring, you know, laying on top of them. But you take a look at Sean Strickland, his takedown defense is phenomenal, 81% takedown defense, and he's getting taken down by guys like Kamaru Usman, and he did stuff 6 out of 8 takedowns in that Usman fight as well. Other than that, like, people are, you know, not having an easy time taking him down. And then you also take a look at who's beating Sean Strickland: Santiago Ponzinibbio, Kamaru Usman, Aleski dos Santos. So he's losing to very, very good competition. And then you have Jotko, who got knocked out by Uriah Hall, who got knocked out by Brad Tavares, very questionable loss there, and then lost to David Branch. So I just think that, you know, Strickland is the better fighter, the better striker. I think anywhere this fight goes, I favor Strickland. If Jotko does take down Strickland is a brown belt in BJJ. I just don't expect that to happen. And on the feet, I just think the volume is going to win this fight. He has a really nice jab. I do think he can possibly knock out Jotko, whose chin I'm questioning a little bit, but ultimately I'm going to take Sean Strickland to win by a pretty comfortable decision, but a knockout would not surprise me. All right, yeah, this fight should be very fun, as are a lot of Ion Cutelaba fights. Cutelaba, Dustin Jacoby going at it. Jacoby coming in on short notice. We have Cutelaba, 27 years old, 6'1", 75-inch reach, 15-6. 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Dustin Jacoby, 33 years old, 6'3", 78-inch reach, 14-5 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here, and we have Cutelaba open at minus 115, currently minus 130. Jacoby opened up minus 115, currently plus 110. So yeah, interesting fight here. I think it's going to be very exciting. The odds makers set the over-under at 1.5 rounds, and it's juiced to the under, so the odds makers think this one's ending early, and I tend to agree with them here. I think this fight does end pretty early. Like, you'll take a look at Ion Cutelaba, and this guy, he's fighting good competition. He's fighting guys like Magomed Ankalaev, lost to him twice. He lost to Glover Teixeira, somebody who's fighting for a title. Lost to Jared Cannonier, lost to Misha Cirkunov. Those are his losses in the UFC. Very, very good. And then you got someone in Dustin Jacoby who arguably lost to Maxim Grishin. A lot of people thought that Grishin won that fight. Grishin did outland him 66-57, and I honestly scored the fight for Grishin as well. So you're going to a close fight with Maxim Grishin. It's just really not a good look. And then going against a killer like Ion Cutelaba, especially on short notice. And that's a kind of a big aspect of this fight that I'm curious to see, like, whose cardio is going to be better as the fight goes on. Because we've seen Jacoby's cardio kind of taper off after the first round, round and a half, 2 rounds. But we've also seen the same thing for Cutelaba. He does slow down after that first round, but we also got to factor in that, you know, Jacoby's coming in on short notice. So I think that's really, really something important to mention there. And also another aspect of this fight I think is interesting is, you know, Cutelaba has some decent takedowns, averages 2.41 per 15 minutes, 71% takedown accuracy, which is really good considering the level of competition. He was able to take down Khalil Roundtree 4 times. He was able to take down Jared Cannonier 6 times. So I think if he comes in here with the game plan of getting takedowns, I think that first round finish for Cutelaba is very live, and that's kind of what I'm going to go with here. If the fight does get extended, like I said, I'm curious to see whose cardio is going to be better. Jacoby's short notice. Cutelaba typically does slow down, but honestly, I don't expect it to get really far into the fight. I think this fight's going to finish early one way or another, but I do expect Cutelaba to come in here with the game plan of getting these takedowns, and I do think he finishes this fight on the mat late first round. So give me Ian Cutelaba for the win. Should be a very, very fun and exciting fight for as long as it lasts. But I'm going to go Ian Cutelaba by first round knockout. All right, next we have Cub Swanson going against Giga Chikadze. We have Chikadze, who is 32 years old, 6 foot, 74-inch reach, 12-2, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. And then we have Cub Swanson, who is 37 years old, 5'8", 70-inch reach, 27-11, 2-3 in his last 5 fights. So we'll take a look at the odds here. And Chikadze opened up minus 240, currently minus 185. Swanson opened up plus 180, currently plus 160. So the money is coming in on the Cub Swanson side. I see a lot of people taking a shot on him, and I don't know. I'm a little bit iffy on this fight. I feel like I don't have the best read on it. I was honestly one of the biggest Giga Chikadze haters out there. I mean, you look at his career, Contender Series fight, 2018, Austin Springer takes him down 4 times, submits him. Austin Springer. He makes his UFC debut against Brandon Davis, who takes him down 3 times, controls him for a lot of that fight. And Giga wins a split decision there. The next fight against Jamal Emmers, Emmers outlands him 54-38. He takes him down 2 times. Chikadze wins a split decision in a fight that I thought Emmers won. And then he kind of levels up a little bit against Irwin Rivera. Not the best level of competition, but he does beat Irwin Rivera. And then you do see him in the Omar Morales fight. I really do think he takes a big step up and just a skill overall in this fight. I mean, he looked phenomenal in the Omar Morales fight, and that's kind of what got me onto the Giga train. I think this guy's legit. I do have my questions, but I do see tons of improvements fight after fight. He was able to stuff takedowns from Omar Morales, who is a black belt in BJJ. He doubled up the output of Omar Morales. Omar Morales, typically someone that's high volume. He outlanded Omar basically 2-1. He dropped Omar hard, and if it was anybody else, he probably would have got a finish in that fight, but Omar is tough as nails, and that's when I thought, hey, he's legit. And then he goes out there against Jamie Simmons, knocks him out in the first round like he should. But yeah, I mean, I think Chikadze is a good fighter. But then you have Cub Swanson here, who is 37, 38 years old. He is getting up there in age, but he's been on a little bit of a run. I mean, beat Daniel Pineda, beat Kron Gracie. Prior to that, he lost 4 in a row. But I don't know. I just think Chikadze is a much, much, much better striker than guys like Pineda, guys like Kron Gracie. Cub Swanson, if he wrestled more, I'd probably, honestly, maybe take a shot on him, especially these odds. It's just 51% takedown accuracy, only averages about a takedown per fight. He just doesn't go for takedowns as much as I'd like. You look through his career, he's never landed more than 2 takedowns in a fight. If he came in here with the game plan of getting takedowns, I think he could be very live, especially, Swanson. He's a black belt, I do believe, and we have seen Chikadze submitted on the mat, but it's just not something I've seen enough for Swanson. I think on the feet, you got to favor Chikadze. I think he's going to be landing the flashier strikes, the harder strikes. Swanson does come with a lot of volume, though. I don't know. It's a tough fight. I'm going to take Chikadze to win by a close decision. I really hate the line, man. I hate the line. I think it should be a lot closer, and that's kind of where we see the line going. Chikadze now minus 185, minus 184, around that area. I think the line's probably going to get closer. I don't know. I think this is a very interesting test for Chikadze. Like, this is a fight that he should win, but it's hard to really sleep on Cub Swanson, somebody that has been on a roll as of late. But I will take Chikadze to win a close decision, just landing the flashier strikes, the harder strikes as well. Don't know if he'll finish Cub Swanson. Cub Swanson is as durable as it comes. Cub Swanson in like 38 fights. He's only been knocked out once. Typically when he's losing, he loses by submission. Don't see Giga submitting him whatsoever. So yeah, I'm going to take Chikadze to win a pretty close decision. But should be a very fun fight. Really interested to see if Giga can pass this test. And then we have the main event. Just want to remind you guys to leave a like on the video. Also subscribe. Check out the live stream that's going to be on Tuesday, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. And yeah, like I said, getting all my content out early since I will be in Vegas. And then, yeah, so check that out. Always a fun time in the live streams. But we will get into the main event now. So we have Jiri Prochazka going against Dominic Reyes. A fun fight, very fun fight here. I'm looking forward to this fight, especially in the small cage. I think this is going to be fireworks for as long as it lasts. We have Jiri, who is 28 years old, 6'4", 80-inch reach, 27-3-1, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Dominic Reyes is 31 years old, 6'4", 77-inch reach, 12-2, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here. Prochazka opened up minus 120, currently minus 130. He got down all the way to minus 150, but some money's coming back on the Reyes side. Reyes opened up minus 110, currently plus 110. Interesting fight, and honestly a pretty interesting line as well. I mean, Dominic Reyes was just a really big favorite over Jan Blachowicz, and it was weird. In that fight, a lot of people thought that, Dominic Reyes, he just arguably beat John Jones. He outlanded John Jones 116 to 104. A lot of people thought that he'd come in here and take care of Jan Blachowicz, including me, but watching that fight, like Dominic Reyes, it looked like a completely different fighter than in the John Jones fight. He looked very tentative. He would not throw anything. He would let Jan Blachowicz, who was very low output himself, outpoint Reyes 2-1. Blachowicz outlanded him 41 to 21 in that fight, letting Blachowicz basically tee off on him until he got the finish. And if he comes in here like that against Prochazka's going to knock him out. It's just, I kind of have a feeling he was talking about that John Jones fight all week. I think that was in his head going into the fight. I think he was more worried about the John Jones loss that he thought he won rather than going out there and fighting Jan Blachowicz. He thought maybe he can walk through Jan Blachowicz. He arguably beat the GOAT in John Jones. Maybe that's what he thought, but I do expect a better Dominic Reyes in this fight. And honestly, I think the line has a lot of recency bias built in. You take a look at Jiri Prochazka. A lot of people like this guy. Including me. I think he's very exciting. He's very unorthodox. He has a weird style that, we've never seen something like it before. But going back and watching the fight against Volkan Oezdemir, the only thing people remember is the fact that he had a very nice head kick, followed up with some punches, knocked out Volkan Oezdemir. That's what we remember. But everybody needs to go back and watch that fight, and I thought Jiri looked terrible in that first round. I thought he looked horrible. I mean, he was messing around, and I know people like that. People like guys that mess around, like guys like Kevin Holland. But I don't know if you can do that at the highest level in the sport, and that's exactly what he does, and it's just his style too. You see the Oezdemir fight in that first round. He was holding his hands together down at his waist, exposing his face 100%, and then throwing punches from his waist, and then you see him doing this no-look striking defense. No-look striking defense where he looked the other way while Volkan was right in his face. Like, you can't do that. You can't do that at the highest level. Yes, it worked on Volkan Oezdemir, but people also forget that Volkan tagged him hard like 4 times. Like, Jiri was stumbling across the cage like 3 or 4 different times in that first round. Comes to the second round, Oezdemir slows down a little bit, and then Jiri catches him. But I was impressed with the finish, but in that first round, I was, not impressed at all. I think that if he comes in here with the game plan of fighting with his hands down, which he does in every single fight, you don't really want to do that against Dominic Reyes, somebody that can hit as hard as him. You don't want to be doing any no-look striking defense. If he does that, like, Dominic Reyes is very live for a knockout. So it's an interesting fight. I don't quite get the line. Dominic Reyes was just like minus 300 against Jan Blachowicz. Dominic Reyes arguably beat John Jones. But you have Jiri coming in here who dropped the first round to Oezdemir, got a knockout on the second. I just don't get this line. I really don't. I'm going to take Dominic Reyes with the upset here. I just think that Prochazka is way too hittable. The first round was such a red flag for me. Could Prochazka knock out Dominic Reyes? Absolutely. Both guys can knock either guy out, but I think that, the striking defense of Jiri really needs to be patched up, but I don't think he's going to. I just think that's his style, to be very unorthodox, kind of showboat around, put his hands down, look the other way when he's in the fight, and I do think Dominic Reyes does catch him very early if he does come in here with that game plan, especially in the small cage. So I don't hate the line on Reyes. I'm kind of going to sit back. Maybe more money would come in on Jiri. A lot of people like this guy. A lot of people like him, which I get it. He's very exciting, but I don't know if you can fight at the highest level with that kind of striking defense. We've seen him knocked out 2 or 3 times because of that, because he has no striking defense. And Dominic Reyes, I do think he's motivated for this fight. I do think he wants to rebound off of a bad Jan Blachowicz loss. So I'm going to take the dog here. I also really like probably the unders in this fight. I think under 2.5 is probably a good look. Alternate line, maybe under 3.5, even a safer look. I don't really see this fight going to the distance. Out of 31 Prochazka fights, only I think 1's been to the distance. So I'm going to take Dominic Reyes here to get the first round knockout, but should be a very, very fun fight. But I will side with the dog. So yeah, guys, thanks for watching. If you guys can leave a like on the video, as always, helps out a ton. One small like does go a long way, like I always say. Also, hit the subscribe button. Going to be coming out with a lot of content throughout the week. I'll quickly go over my picks. Dominic Reyes, Giga Chikadze, Cutelaba, Strickland, Dvalishvili, Botelho, Luana Pinero, Jonathan Pearce, TJ Brown, Luma Lookboonmee, Andreas Michailidis, Felipe Colares. So yeah, lots of dogs as well this week. So good luck with your bets. I'm going to be getting all my stuff out early this week. Like I said, betting breakdown will be out. Live stream will be out early in the week. And I'll be putting my bets from that I'm betting on Twitter and Instagram. Twitter, DFS_numbers. Instagram, DFS by the numbers. And yeah, really looking forward to the card. And good luck for UFC Vegas 25.